For some little while, the question was being asked, what is it that occurs when stillness and movement meet? And in endeavoring to answer that question, of course, as always, there were many stories told, but it could be said that movement came to be defined as it is in that story of the two monks who are looking up at the flagpole and arguing whether it's the flag that's moving or the wind that's moving. And the master coming along to intercede and say, it's neither the wind that's moving or the flag that's moving, it's your mind that's moving. And stillness could be defined in that little story of the master who was dying and all his followers entreating him, please, don't leave us, we need you. And the master answering, but where is there to go? So we really come to answer that question. But now the question's been posed. Where are we? What is this place in which we find ourselves when there is nowhere in the three levels of mind, in the sensory level of mind, in the arcane or intuitive level of mind, or in the interrelated subjective level of mind, for us to rest, no truth on which to put our mind's feet. Where are we? And as always, we're attempting to understand the dynamics so that we can answer this question. But it's not the usual custom. But it is reminded to you that in every story that is told, each of the elements in the stories are representatives or symbols. And this story is just like that. But let's tell the story first and see what we can make of it. There was a family, a husband and wife and 3 children. And they were very poor people, but they worked very hard. They worked for people in the town, doing whatever they could do, but it was a subsistence, existence for them. And then famine struck the land, and there was no work to be had. Their neighbors had an orchard, so the man, the husband, went over to the owner of the orchard and asked, do you have some work for us? We're willing to do anything at all. But the orchard keeper said, this is a tough time. We don't even have enough to feed our own family. We have nothing for you. There is no work here. So there was nothing that the family could do but to pick up their traces and move to see if they could find some work somewhere else. So they packed up their meager possessions, which were merely a few pots and pans and some rattan mats, and they set out. But as night fell, they came into a dense forest, and they came to a big banyan tree. So the mother said to the family, go and find some wood for a fire. Get some water from the stream nearby. And without anything more being said, the father got busy preparing an area for the fire to be made. One of the sons went off to get some water, another went off to get some wood, the other went off, the youngest, to get some kindling, and all of these things were brought back. It was the mother's task to find something to put in the pots. But when the father had finished his task of getting some stones together to make the little fireplace, and the wood was gathered and the water was put on the pots, the mother had nothing to put in. There was no food at all. But as it happened, there was a bird sitting up in the banyan tree watching what was going on. And the bird looked down and spoke to the family and said, "Look, you've prepared a fire, you've boiled the water, but you have nothing to put in the pots." Well, at that moment, the father looked at the son. Not a word was spoken, but the son took one of the rattan mats and went quietly behind the tree. And the father got the bird into conversation. "Well, you're a bird. What do you suggest that we eat and gather?" And the bird said, "Well, I only eat worms and insects, and I don't think that that's people food, so I can't help you." And the father said, "Well, where do you think we can find some food?" And the bird said, "Oh, I don't know about people food." And so the bird said, "Well, what are you going to eat?" And by this time, the son had climbed the tree and grabbed the bird from behind and said, "Well, we're just going to eat you." But just as he was about to put the bird in the pot, the bird said, wait, don't kill me. If you will allow me, I can show you where there is food." "Well," the father said, "can we trust your word?" The bird said, yes, truthfully, you can trust me." So the father and the family agreed, and it was left for the two elder boys to follow the bird. Well, he guided them through the forest until they came to a clearing where there was a magnificent mango tree laden with mangoes, dripping its branches. And very quickly the boys started to gather the mangoes in their rattan mats. And the bird said, "Well, why aren't you eating them? You're each very hungry." And the boy said, "Oh no, we have to feed our whole family. We will gather the fruit and take them back to our family to eat." "Ah," said the bird, "this is a true family. In that case, I'm going to show you a treasure." And he led them to a tree. And he said, "Dig under this tree." Well, the two boys had no implement. They had no spade. But one of them found the empty shell of a tortoise in the river, and another found a broken branch of a tree. And together they bound the two together to make a shovel. And they shoveled under the tree. And of course, they found a treasure chest. They took the treasures quickly back with the fruit to their family. And after feasting on the mangoes, because everyone was hungry, juice dripping from their mouths. They rejoiced in the find of their treasure chest. So they went back to their home in the village, and of course, selling one jewel after another, they were able to repair the roof of their house. They were able to buy food, even though food was scarce, and they began to lead a good life. Now their neighbors noticed the change in their lifestyle. So the neighbor came over to ask what had happened. And the father told the story about how they'd gone into the forest, giving the details of the story and how the bird had guided them. And the neighbor thought, well, if they can do it, so can we. So that very day, he said to his wife and his children, "Come, we're going into the forest." Well, the family complained, the children said, we're not got other things to do, I don't want to go into the forest. But the father insisted. And so, with great reluctance, the family followed the orchard farmer into the forest. Then he ordered his wife to gather food, and he ordered his children, but they didn't want to do so. In fact, they refused to do so. They all said, we're too tired, we're not. But he insisted that water was bought and the fire be made. And so it was that the water was boiled, the fire was made, and there was the bird in the tree. And he looked down and made the same inquiry as he had with the other family. What are you going to cook when you have no food? And the father said, well, we're going to cook you. And the bird said, well, how are you going to do that? None of you can come into any kind of agreement. How are you going to catch me? There can only be success if there is cooperation. The bird flew off, leaving the family to their empty hut. A very simple story. But if we translate it into the recognition that the father and mother are those two, subjective and the objective, this wonderful brain, male, female, as we know the duality. We can even bring it down to stillness and movement if we really care to. And those three children as being these levels of mind, the sensory, the intuitive, and that interrelated subjective level where oneness abides. How does this story assist us to answer the question, where do we find ourselves when there is no longer any room at those three levels for us to rest? As we said, in that sensory level, the ego level where we say, I am the scientist, everything is answered by science. Or the arcane level, the occult level, where we run to our soothsayers, confer with the tarot cards or the runes, or that sublime level of mind where a number of us can reach, where we can say, oh, that's God's business. I'll just leave it to the divine to take care of. What happens when in any of those three levels we have no recourse to this place of rest. Where are we? And how does this story assist us in recognizing this place? Knowing, just like using that old metaphor, you don't eat the flour, you don't eat the yeast, maybe you drink the water. But until the three of them are mixed together to make the bread, you can't eat. What does this story mean for you in relationship to your awareness?
In theory, I would say we are all one.
Yes.
Sometimes theory is not enough.
It doesn't. No. It is not enough, is it?
No.
It doesn't hold water anymore for us.
No. But it's the greatest of questions.
Yes, it is. And so these are our endeavors over these days in exploring to have an understanding of where we are. Because there are so many all over now who are finding the ground beneath their feet rocky, standing on quicksand, desperately trying to find a place.
I think I like that story with the practical reality of cooperating and working together as a unit and working from the heart rather than working from the head.
Yes.
Because that second family had no cooperation at all, and they were forcing their way through life rather than flowing, whereas the other family was flowing through life rather than forcing.
Absolutely.
And so because they were flowing, they were able to flow with what was going on and try and figure it out as they went.
Yes.
Whereas the other one, because they had an intellect, they couldn't figure anything out. And they just went from intellect and they didn't know what to do with it.
So it will become very clear then, as we talked about before, this Satchitananda, existence, knowledge and bliss, which is nothing more than those three levels of mind, they're no longer separate for us. They're just Satchitananda. How does it work? Where do they come together? Right, we can say here, in the heart. And yet, if we define it to try to find that place for rest, we can no longer point to ourselves as this being the center. It's like that story in the stillness, the Master saying, where would I go? Where is there to go? Can we really come back here? When we come back here and we let go of all the conditioning, there is no here. Where is here for us now? Is it a now? Is it this instant? Because we know when we are lost in the here, there's no self. So where can there be a center? Where can we point? It's like the story of the master sitting in front of the image of the Buddha and he needed to spit. So he spat in front of the Buddha's feet. And all the monks came around to try to attack him. So he said, well, please show me the place where the Buddha is not that I can spit. Where are we in this place? This is what we're in.